The phrase, the largest crypto bull run in history, has been tossed around frequently this cycle, yet many remain skeptical that it will actually happen. It's unclear why some doubt it. Perhaps they believe this cycle is taking longer than usual, but that assumption is false. We're actually right on schedule. The crypto bull run is progressing as expected, and the altcoin season is poised to make a significant impact on the market. Some assumed the timeline would be faster this time around. Others speculated that the shifting dynamics in the crypto space would alter the cycle altogether. However, this misconception has been a recurring theme in previous cycles. Back in 2020 and 2021, there was widespread talk of this cycle being different, with ideas of a super cycle and massive institutional FOMO dominating the narrative. Yet we all saw how things ultimately unfolded in 2021. While there are some new elements in play this time, they primarily serve as catalysts rather than indications of a fundamentally different cycle. The core pattern of the crypto market remains consistent and nothing has truly changed. In summary, regulations are still anticipated to arrive sometime between late 2025 and 2026. Personally, I believe regulations will initially have a bearish impact before eventually driving positive outcomes for utility-focused projects. This cycle doesn't seem significantly different from previous ones. Welcome to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, I hope you enjoy this video and consider subscribing. Let's jump right into it without further delay. Looking at the Crypto Bubble's website, we can see a strong presence of green throughout. Hourly, daily, weekly, and even yearly trends are showing positive movement. Even the exchanges are performing well, many showing double-digit increases, with some nearing 30% gains for the month. The broader crypto market is generally on the rise. For instance, the top 100 cryptocurrencies have increased by over 18.5%, the top 200 by 16.7%, and the top 300 by 18.7%. Notably, the top 400 is up an impressive 57%. It's encouraging to see this widespread growth across the board. At the moment, my main focus is on Bitcoin, which is experiencing significant gains. Bitcoin has surged past $97.00, representing a 2.5% rise over the past 24 hours. While that may not seem like much, its performance over the past 7 days shows a solid 4% increase. Over the past 30 days, Bitcoin has had a strong performance. The cryptocurrency market overall has surpassed a $3 trillion 0 cents market cap during this initial rally, which is an encouraging milestone. While XRP hasn't shown much significant movement, there have been impressive gains across various altcoins, including some standout projects I've previously highlighted on the channel. So it's great to see such positive momentum in the market. As for XRP, I'll delve into its current status shortly. Meanwhile, looking at the CMC 100, it appears to be breaking upward after forming some lower lows. We're now beginning to see the formation of higher highs and higher lows. This brings to mind what happened back in September when Bitcoin initially started showing similar patterns before the major rally that occurred between November and December. If we experience something comparable now, Bitcoin could potentially surpass $150,000 0 cents. During this period, altcoins are likely to perform exceptionally well too, as I believe Bitcoin dominance might be nearing its peak, something I'll discuss shortly. Overall, the market outlook appears promising. The Fear and Greed Index has returned to a neutral 55, marking a significant rebound from extreme fear levels. Now, as for the Alt Season Index, the market remains largely driven by Bitcoin, which I'll delve into further in this video. However, it's essential not to get ahead of ourselves just yet. The current price movement is very positive and signals a strong bullish trend. We've surpassed the $95,000 0 cents mark on Bitcoin, which was my initial target mentioned in earlier videos. A weekly close above 95K is key, and I'll dive into what the weekly chart is showing shortly. As of now, Bitcoin's price action is looking strong. Earlier today, around noon, we reached a peak of approximately $97.40 K. If you're interested in the details, here's what the candlesticks currently look like. Here, Bitcoin has had an impressive month, climbing over 14.5% for an asset of Bitcoin's size in terms of market cap and value. A 15% increase over 30 days is definitely noteworthy. Looking at the yearly performance, it's clear that Bitcoin is still in positive territory. When examining the broader chart, it's evident why the 95K to 96K range was such a critical level. It played a significant role in flipping resistance into support. Reclaiming this area as support would mark a substantial milestone, but it's important not to get ahead of ourselves. So what's behind Bitcoin's recent surge? Why has this happened so quickly? On around the 17th, I pointed out that the market appeared to be coiling, setting up for a bigger move. This anticipation stemmed from gold starting to experience a sell-off, which seemed to align with Bitcoin's upward momentum. Many people, myself included, believe that this might have peaked for now. From this point, I think we'll see a period of sideways movement or consolidation until we can rise above these levels again, which could take some time. In my opinion, the current situation with gold resembles the 2020 market behavior. Back in 2020, we saw a significant breakout leading into August before the market began moving sideways. And that's why I referenced a bars chart from that same August period. I think it reflects how gold is likely to behave moving forward. I anticipate a gradual choppy decline, essentially a prolonged consolidation phase, before we make another push to retest the recent high. This would allow the market to settle down a bit, particularly as we see a shift from gold investments into Bitcoin. I believe that's exactly what we're seeing right now. If you take a closer look, gold started reaching its peak on the 21st. Meanwhile, Bitcoin began its climb on the 20th and was surging by the 21st. This indicates a shift from gold to Bitcoin, with Bitcoin taking center stage. As a result, discussions about gold began to fade. Well, gold's earlier surge was primarily because it was in the spotlight. Everyone was talking about its strong performance, keeping all the attention on it. The focus has shifted back to Bitcoin, which is great news, especially if you hold XRP or other altcoins. This is because Bitcoin's success generally benefits the altcoin market as well. However, you might wonder why XRP isn't making significant gains right now. On the daily chart, XRP is only up about 9.91%. And over the past week, it's risen just 2.37%. So what's the reason? It comes down to Bitcoin dominance. As Bitcoin's dominance continues to climb, we're not likely to see major moves from altcoins just yet. I've mentioned this in the Discord as well. Many people have been asking when altcoins will begin to rally. While we haven't seen explosive action across the board, some altcoins are already up over 100% or more. XRP has already seen a significant rise this year, showing impressive growth of 336% to 337%. However, the increase is actually much larger. Over the past year, XRP has surged by more than 700%, nearly reaching 800%. While some might assume this means XRP has peaked or reached its limit, that's not the case. The biggest gains for altcoins in a cycle typically occur after this type of chart starts to decline, and that hasn't happened yet. When considering how long it takes for altcoins to truly take off, the process generally spans about 147 days. For example, in 2021, XRP saw its peak by the end of March and was already topping out by April. This initial surge wasn't unique to XRP. It also applied to other coins like Dogecoin. Take Doge as an example. I can demonstrate that most altcoins tend to peak earlier rather than later. For instance, we saw a peak around late April or close to March. During this period, many altcoins hit their high points largely because Bitcoin began to see a noticeable upward move. Some believe Bitcoin dominance actually bottomed out around the same time when many altcoins reached their peaks. Right, this period marked the key moment where Bitcoin dominance started to establish a support level or floor. Although there were some brief surges and fluctuations, the majority of altcoins hit their peak during this time frame. However, a few exceptions extended their upward trends into October and November. That's why I believe we don't have much time left before altcoins start to surge and eventually peak. If Bitcoin dominance begins to decline from here, we may only have around 3 to 6 months left in this cycle to lock in profits, focus on short-term trades, and secure gain. I'm keeping a close eye on this. When dominance weakens, it typically sets the stage for the biggest movements in altcoins during the cycle, including XRP. I believe XRP is positioned to perform exceptionally well. It's already made significant strides, but I anticipate even greater price action for XRP in the near future. When considering this, it's important to keep Bitcoin dominance in mind. Even though much of the market appears to be performing well and is in the green, Bitcoin might still experience one final sell-off at this point. We've recently repeated the same pattern that initially emerged in April, around the 12th through the 20th, right before a significant upward expansion. It looks like this pattern is starting to take shape again. I'm paying close attention because if we see a similar upward surge to what happened on the 21st and 22nd, we could be looking at levels exceeding 100K. The red zone I've marked here highlights an area of significant resistance that must be overcome. Initially, the key point was 95K, as this level has been a major battleground on the chart. Back in early March, 95K was the wick we reached, and it also served as a support zone that needed to be flipped. Now that we've flipped this level, it's crucial to secure a weekly close above 96K or 97K to sustain these highs. However, one concern on the daily chart is the RSI, which is currently in overbought territory. This raises some caution as we experienced similar levels in December when momentum was building. Even in November, we were already in overbought conditions, suggesting there's still room for further upward movement. Ultimately, it comes down to volume, which appears to be tapering off slightly. That said, when analyzing higher timeframes like the weekly chart, the outlook isn't too concerning. The RSI has just crossed above the moving average, which aligns with the breakout momentum we've seen around April 20th or 21st. As there's still plenty of potential for growth here on RSI, which is why, even though it's something to keep an eye on, there's a fair value gap below that could be filled. However, this doesn't have to happen, which is why I've outlined two possible scenarios on the chart. As we approach the 100K level, we could see a rapid surge past it, potentially breaking out to 120K or 140K before experiencing a slight pullback afterward. Targets around 150K or even 170K might come into play. For those not actively trading or monitoring charts daily, these short-term movements aren't as important. The key takeaway, in my opinion, is that Bitcoin is heading higher overall. This trend is largely tied to the expansion of the M2 money supply. As for XRP, there's a chance it could dip down once more, possibly around the $2.00 level. We may see a brief dip below this level, similar to what happened in early April, but it's likely will ultimately close well above $1.91 to maintain higher lows. I believe we could close around $2.06 or potentially even higher. Alternatively, if Bitcoin avoids any downward movement and continues to rally, XRP could break above the upper trend line, retest it, and push higher. This momentum might be what propels XRP past $3.40, potentially driving it to over $4.00. Switching to Bitcoin, I've been closely monitoring Ethereum, and I believe it has fully bottomed out on the weekly Ethereum Bitcoin chart. The RSI appears to be in one of the most oversold macro conditions since the chart's inception, coinciding with levels not seen since 2020. Meanwhile, the USD chart for Ethereum is beginning to show signs of upward movement. Momentum is already building with the RSI now crossing above the moving average. The last time this happened was back in October, just before Ethereum soared to nearly $4,100.00, crossing above the moving average now at a time when the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is showing promising signals, could indicate that Ethereum is gearing up for a major breakout. It's likely to surpass $2.00 K and aim for previous high. Meanwhile, Bitcoin dominance is expected to face a significant drop as Bitcoin climbs past $100.00 K, potentially triggering a parabolic run for altcoins. This is an ideal time to stay focused and fully engaged in the crypto space, as I firmly believe altcoins, including XRP, are on the verge of experiencing one of the biggest bull runs in cryptocurrency history. You might think we've heard this before, and yes, similar claims have been made in the past. However, when we consider the current conditions, there has never been a more favorable environment to position yourself in this market and concentrate on altcoins. Even the stock market is beginning to show signs of upward momentum, breaking through key support and resistance levels. This is occurring alongside the expansion of the M2 money supply, which we anticipated would happen. When you look at Bitcoin now, it's nearing 100K and tracking the M2 closely. With a 12-week lead, this suggests that by summer, Bitcoin could surpass 140K, aligning with Bitcoin dominance. I've highlighted this several times over the past 3 months. It matches perfectly with Bitcoin dominance, which may peak around late June to early July. So this is similar to the time when it peaked back in 2020 into 2021, exactly 1 and 96 days apart. The precision is almost unbelievable. Currently, with Bitcoin breaking upward, Ethereum hitting its bottom, being heavily oversold, and altcoins primed to surge, it feels as though alt season is just around the corner. We're almost at the starting line for alt season. You can almost sense it happening. Even though there might be another dip or some sideways movement, I believe Bitcoin is gearing up to surge past the 100K mark. In my view, this market is on the brink of an explosive breakout. With that said, I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, feel free to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I provide all this content for free, so you're always welcome to engage. Thanks for tuning in and take care. Peace.